All right, welcome back, everyone. We are going to go into Autodesk Fusion 360. If you're already in the program, then just remain there. However, one of the things I want to show you is how to get back to your files once you are back into Fusion 360. So we'll wait for that to load. There's some things we're going to go over today so that you can get started in actually creating some objects. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up here to our data panel. And if we open that up, if you don't see this, you can actually go back to your home, find the folder owned by me, make sure you're there. But then you can double click. So I'm within the project, double click into the folder. Now I'm in the folder. Now I need to actually open the file. So now I'm actually in it. How do I know I'm in the file? If you actually go up here, you can actually see the name of the file. I'm going to go ahead and make that go away. So let's talk about a few things today. First off, when designing in 3D environments, you have an X, Y, and Z axis. X being left and right. So if I look at the front view here, X is going to go left and right. Y is going to go up and down. Z is going to go front to back. Notice how the blue line goes that direction. Okay. So one thing we want to do is make sure that we are doing our best to draw things on the front view. It just makes things a little bit easier. So you have three axes, X, Y, and Z, and then there are three more that you need to know about. You have the rotational on the X. So if we look at X from here, we rotate. Okay, X rotates. Same thing with Y and Z. So you have X, Y, and Z axes, and then you have the Y rotational, Z rotational, and X rotational, meaning that if you ever see, for some reason, how many degrees of freedom are there? There are 6. You have X, Y, and Z, and then the rotational of each. Okay, now let's go into how to create an object and change the units. So if we're in our sketch here. Okay, if I want to change something, first thing I need to do is go up to Document Settings. If I click the down arrow, this shows what units I'm in. Currently, I'm in units millimeters. I don't know about you, but we are in America. We do use millimeters. However, a majority of the time, you're going to be designing with inches. So what we're going to do is click on this little here, change the active units. You get this window pops up over here, and instead of millimeter, we're going to go to inch. We can actually set that as our default. I don't know, since you are students, if it will let you change the defaults within a program. If not, you'll just have to remember to go in and change inch. So now inch is my default. Some things to also know. If you want to zoom in and zoom out, like so, it is the scroll wheel on your mouse. All right. If you want to rotate, or if you want to grab or select items, it's the left mouse button. If you want to, my bad. All right, if you want to move left or right, up and down, if you hold the scroll wheel in, that is what you get. Okay, and then cancel. And then if you actually click and drag around with this cube, that's how you can rotate around your objects. So let's get into creating an object. Now that we've changed that, let's do a simple object here, such as a square. Now, before we watch this, or before we do this very quickly, there's what's called primitives. Primitives are simple shapes that are used to create lots of objects. To find those primitives, you basically go to the Create tab, and then here is a primitive: box, cylinder, sphere, torus, coil, and pipe. So if we want to create a box, I can click that, select the plane I want it to attach to. Okay. Now, if I want to look at this head-on, you can always click on that so that you're looking straight up. I can click and drag. All right, there's my object. And then if I want to go back and forth between what heights I'm doing here, okay, I can change these. So say I want this to be 3, then I would do tab. That says 3 because it's the same. 0.10, so I can do 2. All right, so now I have this object here. So you can create primitives that way. That's up to you whether you want to do it or not. I typically am more of a fan of actually drawing the object flat out. So if I wanted to create that box, I would go up here to create sketch. I would then select where I want to create the sketch. I would either draw my box like so, and then finish sketch, and then extrude, and then based off of how far I want that to go, I can drag that. Okay. So there's all sorts of different ways. So there's never really one way to get where you need to go. Over here, all right, named views, we have top, front, right, and home. So that would be the top view, front view. If you notice the view cube moves when I click on these. Right, home is going to be an isometric view. And then origin. So these are points, and then you have what's your axes, x, y, and z, and then you have planes, x, y, x, z, y, z. You see the little boxes pop up as I hover over them. So those are origins where you can actually, later on we'll get into what's called planes, and you can actually kind of attach onto imaginary surfaces based off of where you're trying to sketch. So let's start with some simple things, creating a sketch. Okay, based off how we want to do that, I'm going to click here. So I'm on X and Y again, red, green. All right, and then if I want to create my box, I can always start here. This is the 0, 0 coordinate, so it's 0 on the X and the Y. So I can click and then drag. Now, this is not dimensioned, and we're working in a world where dimensions matter. So there's different ways to do it. Okay, you can kind of dimension as you go, or you can go back and dimension. So this is called a sketch dimension tool. So we go up here, actually click on the line, and be like, you know what, that needs to be actually be 3 instead of 2. And this needs to be 2.876, because I can. Oops, not slash. So that is 2.76 inches long. Once I finish the sketch, I can go to my extrude tool and say I need to extrude it 2 inches. I can type in 2, enter, and now I have an object. All right, so if this is my cube, I can now go through and do some other things. So let's say I want to cut a circle into it. All right, I can create a new sketch. You can select all sorts of different surfaces. I'm going to select this here, and then I'm going to create a circle. Okay, now you're kind of wondering like, well, how can I find the center? Okay, that would be your center point. And so if you go up and you then find it, and then you see that blue line pops up, well, I still don't know the center for the y. That gives me the x. So I can find it there, and then now I have the center of the object. And I'm just kind of running over the object so that you can see it. So here's my circle. I can actually dimension as I go. So before clicking, I can be like, I'm going to make that 2. Enter. So it has a diameter of 2 inches. Then I can finish the sketch as well. And then I can do an extrude. Click on what I want to extrude. Okay. And there's 2 different ways. You can either extrude this out, so then there's a cylinder, or you can actually extrude it opposite, negative. And notice what happens in the operation thing over here. So right now, right now it says join, okay? But if I go this way, after here it starts to say cut. So now if I go through the object, it actually is going to cut that shape out. So now I have this circle cut in there. Pretty neat. So there's other things we can do. You have what's called a revolve feature, and we'll get into that later. Just some basics tools, and we're going to go back to sketching real quick. So I'm actually going to Control Z, by the way, is how you go back in this program. I'm going to delete everything. And let's draw some lines. So we're going to talk about constraints, and you know what? We're going to do that in another video. So I'm going to give you a chance to kind of mess around with what we've done so far, and I'm going to pause this here, and then we'll do another video with constraints.